Craig Deall was raising his children on the same farm in Zimbabwe he grew up on, when in 2003, the unthinkable happened.
Well, Wendy, it was obviously extremely traumatic.
The government forced Craig, his wife, and children to leave their home and farm that had been in his family since 1948 as part of the government's land reform program, an effort to more equitably distribute land between black subsistence farmers and white Zimbabweans of European ancestry. He says he had three choices.
We could fight, we could flee, or we could forgive. And some of my friends, they fought for their land and ended up getting killed for it. Most of my friends left the country, and no answer is wrong. It was just a decision. But we as a family decided that we would pursue the third option, which was to forgive.
He kept going back to one scripture.
That scripture where Jesus says, if a man steals your coat, give him your tunic as well. And so for us, that meant if a man takes your farm, teach him how to farm. And that's what we did. And with that, the pressure lifted. There was a great release over us. And we knew that God had opened up an avenue for us to serve the people and to serve the very least of his brothers through agriculture and bring them the gospel.
Craig moved his family to the city, while about 12 other families took over his house and land. He then joined a group called Foundations for Farming. There, he began to teach the new owners, as well as other small-scale farmers, a unique way of farming that God revealed to the group's founder, Brian Oldreeve.
He went with a childlike faith into virgin bush, into virgin forest, and he sat there with a childlike faith and asked God, teach me how to farm. And the two things that he saw is that there's no inversion tillage in nature. And the next thing he saw, there was this beautiful mulch cover that covers the forest floor. And that's actually God's mechanism for feeding the soil and protecting the soil. And so he went back to his farm and he literally tried it just without any tillage and no burning, which is contrary to the conventional way of farming. And he immediately got outstanding results, like a 10-time increment in yield. And so he knew that it worked. And he started then to grow it bigger and bigger. He knew that God had given him this revelation, not for himself, but to extrapolate across the continent of Africa to the rural farmers, the hurting, the poor ones around the continent.
The success of the zero-tillage technique caught the attention of the Zimbabwe government, which endorsed their method. And in 2020, the country experienced its first food surplus in 2 decades.
The food production has jumped 4 times, between 3 and 4 times are the official estimates of the food increment in year 2020.
The country's main crop, corn, tripled with the method. And now Foundations for Farming teaches the technique all over the world with the main goal of sharing the gospel.
80% of what we teach is the heart. You will never get a behavior change in the village until you've had a heart change. And so that is where Jesus comes in. It's using agriculture as an entry point for the gospel.
Even with all the success, the Zimbabwe government never offered Craig any compensation for his home, his land, or his time teaching. But he says the way God provided, he wouldn't change a thing.
We have a saying in Foundations for Farming is that once I had a farm in Africa, but now Africa is my farm.